Hello, Tech Pros, episode 201.
Everyone has a few moments of their time or money or whatever, where they can just give of themselves to someone else. And wherever that is, in whatever form that is, I think that if more people just did that one thing, we'd just be in a much better place in this world.
Welcome to the podcast where I chat with professionals who are getting the job done using technology 7 days a week. Each week we start with Motivation Monday. Tuesday is about productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. All right, let's get started. Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostic, and I'm excited to introduce our featured guest today, Clarence Washington. Happy Friday, Clarence.
Hey, how you guys doing?
I'm doing great, man. Are you ready for the weekend?
I am absolutely excited about the weekend, honestly. We had a game scheduled that was canceled, and so I get to have a weekend to myself. I'm stoked.
Awesome. We will hear all about your games in just a minute because Clarence Washington is a manager of infrastructure architecture and engineering, and he has a strong belief in finding a way to give back to the community and blessing others with the things that you yourself have been blessed with. Clarence works with inner city youth. Man, English is not my first language. You knew this, Clarence, right? English is not my first language. My first language was BASIC, and then my second language was Pascal, and then I've been picking up a little bit of English along the way. Clarence works with inner city youth and uses sports, specifically football, to reach children that we otherwise would not be able to reach. Although they have been a perennially successful and winning program, winning is not emphasized as the most important outcome. They believe in success. Wins and losses are short-term outcomes, and even in an individual defeat, successes can be found. Success on the field and in life comes with hard work, discipline, and perseverance. With these things, there is no need to focus on the score or even wins and losses on the field or in life because success is a byproduct of those things. Clarence and his team of coaches and mentors teach and live by that ethic. So, Clarence, I love the fact that you are an infrastructure architecture, engineering manager. Man, you're in IT. I know you personally. I know that you're an Uber geek and you're a hard worker, but that the focus on today's podcast, the focus on today's message is really about people and specifically on the young people who will eventually be coming into the workplace, eventually be getting jobs in technology or hopefully in some productive area. But you're there in the early stages of their life, like really bringing them up to understand not just the tactics and strategies of football, but all this other great stuff about wins and losses and success and what it means to work hard and all that kind of stuff. How did you get into this?
So for me, work has always been gratifying and cool, and I enjoy getting up and going to work, but my passion has always been somewhere else. I've been blessed with the ability to design and build things, I guess, and see things a little differently than others. But my passion has always been helping others. It's kind of weird for me. I believe that we all have been blessed in one way or another, and that those blessings need to be shared. And so when I started looking at what can I do as a person to help, I love kids to death. And I got sort of stumbled into coaching football. And after that first year of coaching football, I decided I was going to help inner city kids through football. A lot of times kids have problems in school or whatever the case, but you can find that thing that they really want to do and really want to do it well. They will listen to you, and you can impart knowledge and you can impart a sense of self in them and get them to do some things that they wouldn't ordinarily do because they really want to play football. And so we started with that mission and sort of helping kids and being mentors to kids. And so we do a lot of things. It's not just coaching football. So during the football season, we tutor the kids if they're having problems in school. We help parents with discipline. We help parents who are having special issues with their kids. We've had a couple of kids this year who have some serious psychological issues and are taking medications and things. And so we've partnered with parents to help them sort of deal with those things as well as helping the kids and showing the kids that they have some value, and the value is not just sports, you know. And so it's just it's a work of the heart for me. And I don't have any kids on the team, and none of the coaches have kids on the team. We all do it because we want to get back.
Man, that's amazing. So, everybody that I talk to, right, we all come from different backgrounds. And that's what I love specifically about doing the show is I get to really hear like the emotional impact that the work or that technology or that life or that relationships have had on everyone, and we all come from different backgrounds, right? And I feel blessed that I live with my parents, and I had a pretty supportive environment, and sports was not my thing, but other things were my thing, and I was in a safe environment, if nothing else, right? But I'm sure in your experience, you've seen a lot of different examples of kids who maybe were doing really well in a very safe home and had a lot of family support from their parents, and maybe some other examples of some unfortunate situations as well. Has there ever been like a time that really stood out to you of an impact that you had with a kid where you're like, okay, this is it, like I'm hooked because I was able to help Johnny or help Travis or whatever, like I can never go back. Like I am here forever.
I can't even count the times. I think the most poignant situation for me was last year, where we had a young man who had his father, believe it or not, was shot in front of him in his front yard, shot to death, shot execution style. And the young man showed up for practice a week later. That's how much he enjoyed. Football was his refuge for him. It was his way to escape some of the things that were going on in his neighborhood. And he loved it. He comes down and talks to me and talks to the coaches every time he sees us. So he goes to the school, the middle school. We sort of feed. We coach the kids in a certain neighborhood, and they all feed one or two of the high schools, and we practice at one of the high schools. And he comes down and talks to us in the whole bit. And I just question how he would have been able to deal with things, or if he would have been able to get over things as quickly or deal with things as quickly if he didn't have some young men and some kids that thought he was family. Right? And so that's the most poignant one for me. But there have been several examples. We pick kids up. So some parents cannot either they're either working nights or they can't afford to spend the gas money. Some things that I take for granted. I go to the gas tank and fill up. Mm-hmm. I go to the gas station and fill up. I not thought about whether or not I needed gas in my car for, I can't even tell you how long. I've been blessed that way. And, some parents, they've called me and said, hey, we can't get to the game because we don't have gas money. That's kind of a humbling, sort of sobering thing. And I think about that. It's a little thing. Some people don't even think about that as a blessing, right? The fact that they can just go and say, oh, wow, I need to fill up. And others are actually budgeting gas so that they can get back and forth to work. And so really we pick up kids. We pick up about half the kids that play for us. We pick them up every day to get to practice. We pick them up, take them to games so that they can play. Our program provides all of the equipment. That's helmets, shoulder pads, uniforms, practice pants, cleats, all of that. And we handle the league fees. And that typically, most often, comes out of the coaches' pockets. Once every 3 or 4 years, I try to do a fairly large fundraiser. You helped out with one that we did at Devon. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, those things come out of the coaches' pockets.
Man, I can't I just can't imagine like the impact that it's got, not just on the individual kids, but just in the town, right? In the neighborhood itself, of just having a safe place for these kids to show up, and these coaches really like sacrificing their time, sacrificing their money, right? And just investing all that they have into this. Have you had like, what's the range of parental support, or have you had anybody that kind of, let's say, that doesn't support you so much? And what I mean by that is maybe feel embarrassed or feel resentful that Clarence is there instead of, mom or dad or something like that.
Yeah, that's really only happened once. Most of the parents are very, very supportive, right? They think we're kind of weird, which understandably so, right? I am the type of parent that I do not trust my kids with other
Yep.
people, right? I have to get to know them. I have to, I won't let my daughter spend the night places, those kinds of things, right? And so I, understandably so, parents are going, who is this guy? Why does he care?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
What's in it for him? What's he getting out of it?
For me, what am I getting out of it? And then when I figure out that I'm not asking anything of them, I certainly don't want anything out of the way from their kids. I just want the kids to have something that they can be proud of, right? And the first thing, it's really kind of weird. So the first thing that we teach is discipline. And that's a hard lesson for some kids, particularly for kids that don't have their fathers around. And about half of the kids on the team don't have dads in the house. And so when you're not used to a fairly large man, actually three fairly large men, seeing that you're doing something and expressing displeasure in a way that you've not heard, either raising your voice or whatever, it takes young boys back. They get a little. It's an interesting thing. Then they get to the point where they're used to it. Then they get to the point where they understand that we have their best interest at heart. Then they get to the point where they understand that we actually care about them. And we've had kids that actually thought we hated their guts, right? Mm-hmm. And they come down to, I see them next year. Coach, you gonna come watch me play? You made me better. And those are things that make me feel good. And the thing that really, in direct answer to your question, we've actually had parents come down and ask us to continue to help their kids once they're in high school or whatever, because they're struggling with this thing or that thing. And so the parents actually figure out that we just want to help the kids, right? Now, I have had one case where a parent, a father was away from his kid for a period of time, and wanted to become a part of that young man's life again. And he was a little resentful of us. And so, we met with the coaches and talked to the dad and, took a step back a little bit so that he can have some space to step in. But that was a rare occasion. After, a few weeks of watching us in practice and how we deal with the kids, and usually parents are pretty good.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love it when we can all come together as a team, right? And I'm imagining the looks on these kids' faces if they haven't had any discipline in their life and they haven't been around you. You guys, the coaches out there, you are like tough dudes, right? And to have you raise your voice, like I've never heard you like get your coach voice on. I've never heard that, even though I've known you for many years. But I can imagine that it would elicit in me an anxious response, right? That fight, flight, or flee response would naturally just kick in, and I'd be like, just at least for a half a second to 10 seconds, like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Do I run? Do I like get up in his face, or do I just sit here and like stare?
Well, I can literally, without using a whistle, I can yell at a young man a quarter mile away and he can hear me. It's a true story. So my voice carries, and I can go, hey, and they all turn around. It's funny. I can be at the top of the hill. So we practice it on a high school practice field, but it's like in a little bit of a valley. And so the kids have to go down this hill to go practice, and I'll stand up at the top of the hill while they're wanting to watch, and I can say something from the top of the hill, and they all hear me. It's kind of funny. So I've developed a way to get my voice to carry.
Project that voice.
Project.
What do your own kids, Clarence, think about or feel about you supporting these other kids? Are they cool with it? Do they help out, or do they see it as dad's always spending time with some other kid instead of with me?
They've not known anything else. And so I've been coaching now for 25 years, and my actually a little longer than that, almost 30. My oldest son is 16, and he'll be 17. And I actually took some time when he was 5 and 6 and explained to him what I did. He would come to practice with us, and made sure, and I continue to reinforce with my own children, that Daddy loves them very much. They as much as I care about all these other kids, and I care about them deeply, the love that I have for my kids can't be surpassed. And they understand that. And so during football season, I get teased, they tease me about sometimes not being here. But, I believe that relationships are like a bank, right? Anytime you make a anytime you make a withdrawals actually hurt you more than a deposit, because you can't take, you're collecting interest and those kinds of things. And so anytime that I have to take a withdrawal, meaning I have to discipline my own kids, or I have to be away from home or whatever, I have to pour into or deposit that much more. And so that's the sort of the model that I live by. And it's because it's important to me that my kids, and my son in particular, understand that they are important to me, and these other things that are important to me aren't as important as them.
25 years is a long time. Like 25 years is an entire career in many industries. Mm-hmm. Some of the first kids that you've coached, maybe 20, 22, 25 years ago, are you still in contact with any of them? Like, are they part of the program? Are they still in the same neighborhood? Are they keeping in contact with you?
So 25 years ago, I was in a different city, but I do. Okay. It's funny. They recognize me, and sometimes I don't recognize them. So there have been times where I've been at the mall when I go home, and they go, "Coach Washington." I'm like, "Oh, okay, we chat." I have a couple of kids that are playing pro ball. And I tweet back and forth with them. Kelechi Osamele in particular, we tweet back and forth. He plays for the Oakland Raiders. Several kids that are playing D1 college, and so when they come back to Oklahoma City, where I live now, I see them actually often. They'll text me or whatever. I'll bump into them at football games, and it's an interesting thing, because my memory of them is when they're 10. Or 12 or 11, right. And then I see them at a football game because they're home visiting parents or something, and they're 6'4", 6'3", 6'2". Coach, I didn't know you were that short. Right.
Right.
So we up it up a little bit, but yeah, it's a nice feeling, and it's especially nice when they make a point to come down the hill and ask us to go watch them play at a game. We get that often. Hey, Coach, we're playing a big game, and my coach is telling me I'm gonna start for the first time. You're gonna be there. We get that often, and that kind of a thing fills my heart, because many a times it's those same kids that were really really hard on, and really getting into them and working with them, and now that they're away from us, they understand that we're trying to do all of that for their better, to make them better people.
So once they're getting out of high school, and it's probably only a small percentage, I'm guessing, that's going to go on to a big college and play football for a university, and then certainly an extremely small percentage that's going to go to the league, right? But the rest of the kids that are joining the workforce or just becoming adults, what kind of trends do you see in these kids versus like other kids from the neighborhood?
That's a really, I can't really tell you anything other than anecdotally. I think that they do better, to be honest. We've actually been able to um, really helped sort of turn some things around with some kids, right? And I am actually kind of proud of that. And of course, we're not able to touch everyone that way, but there have been enough that I've actually seen sort of change their life around. And part of the reason why we use athletics is because that gives people an opportunity for college education that sometimes they would not have had, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it gets them thinking that they have to keep their grades up. So if they want to play high school ball, they have to keep their grades up. If they want to play middle school, they have to keep their grades up. If they want to play college, they have to do certain things academically. And so instead of us, which is, admirable for those people who are big brothers and big sisters and those kinds of things, anything that you can do to give of yourself is just a special thing. We chose athletics. I chose athletics because actually I see it as a gateway to some other things. It forces kids, if you really want to play football, if you really love football, you really love basketball, you really love baseball, whatever that thing is, it forces them to do other things to keep at football, right? So you can't play if you're failing classes.
Right.
And so what we've seen is we see kids who in high school, once they realize that the big schools are not going to come after them, they're doing whatever they can to get any scholarship. And we talked to a young man the other day. We have the high school kids come down and talk to our boys. So we have boys that we coach on a Saturday actually come down and talk to boys that are on the team today, which is a big deal to a 10-year-old, a high school kid coming out, looks like a grown man to them, who's playing football, right? Playing high school football, talks to them about, hey, and someone says, well, what college are you going to? And one of the kids responded, any college that's going to be free to me.
Right.
Which made me feel wonderful, right? Because they're not thinking, I need to play pro. They're thinking the right way. I need to get an education and do some things with my life. If I play pro ball, that's good. If I don't, I have an education, which is where we need to be. Too often, I think the other thing is what is important. And so if they can't play pro ball, you see a bunch of kids out there that once they're pro, once they realize they're not going to reach that goal, their life falls apart. And so we that's another reason why we don't teach wins and losses. As much as I want to be a winner, we've gone through some bad seasons, and a win is not important. No one's going to remember that you won a game in Little League when you're in your 20s and 30s struggling. You're not going to remember that. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. So it's just not the most important thing. I love the fact society we move back that way too. We see too many coaches and parents doing unimaginable things because their kids aren't, quote, winners, and their young kids need to move away from that.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many life lessons that I can take away that, excuse me, I think our audience can take away here in these situations. And it's, sometimes it can be a trope, like there's no winners or losers in Little League. It's how you play the game and all this kind of stuff. But one of the big things that I've been learning recently that I struggled with for a long, long time as an adult, as a grown man, is the fact that I need to fail often more quickly, right? That means I need to try things. I need to push myself beyond my comfort zone, and I need to give it my all. And if it doesn't work out, then I learn from that and I try again. And honestly, I wasn't in sports when I was a kid, and I wonder how much further I would be today if I had coaches like yourself when I was 10 years old, right? If I had coaches like yourself when I was 16, 17 years old and saying, hey, push it, and we failed. Okay, cool. We didn't win. Great. But that was a success, right? You learned something, you got stronger, you got better, you got more resilient, and now you're going to take these lessons into your manhood, into your adulthood. So Clarence, in just a moment, I want to ask you about what we can do as adults to, whether it's in sports or in some other areas, to inspire these kids and make an impact in our neighborhoods. But first, let's take a quick break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by Minio Cloud Storage. Minio is a cloud object storage server for developers and DevOps written in Go. The Go programming language is the emerging language of choice for modern cloud infrastructure projects, and it allows Minio to be highly concurrent and lightweight. Minio is Amazon S3 compatible, built with microstorage architecture in mind, but at its heart, Minio is simple, scalable, and supported by a passionate developer and user community. In episode 89 of Hello Tech Pros, I talked with A.B. Periasamy, one of the founders of Minio, about the importance of community support and recruiting software developers who are as passionate about their product's code as artists are of their art. Check out that episode at hellotechpros.com/89 and check out Minio Cloud Storage at minio.io. That's minio.io. Are you new to podcasting? Are you looking for a fast, high-quality, yet budget-friendly podcast production team? Let TransSource Media take care of you. With a team of professional audio and video editors, writers, and graphic artists, they can help you build your podcast from planning, post-production, and platform submission. Using only cutting-edge software and studio equipment, they're here to make each and every show sound at its best. To get a free quote, please visit www.transsourcemedia.com or send them an email at marketing@transsourcemedia.com or call them at 209-505-5693. TransSource Media, transforming businesses through the power of multimedia. Okay, we're back with Clarence Washington. Clarence is a manager of infrastructure architecture and engineering, and he has been voluntarily coaching kids, like middle school kids, for 25 years in athletics and football, and also tutoring and education, and just teaching them discipline and how to grow up to be a good person, right? So Clarence, you talked about a lot of the impacts that you've had on these little kids as they're growing up into teenagers, as they're growing up into adults, and the impact that you've had on their lives, up until today. What can we do to get involved, right? Maybe athletics is not our thing. Maybe it's software development, or maybe it's dance, or maybe, I don't know, something completely different. What can we do to get involved in a program that either already exists or to start our own program?
Honestly, I think it's a little less than a program. I just think it's to give of yourself, and whatever that is, right? So I was blessed with some athletic ability, and so I used that. Others are blessed with an imagination, which you have to be a software developer. Some of the guys that I've met, including yourself, that are software developers, are short of brilliant. Just a little short. I mean, not even short. Some of them just brilliant. And the best thing that you can do for a young person is to show them that they can achieve something. That's just my opinion. And particularly young people who have been told that they can't or feel like they can't. And so if you can show somebody how to do something and have them go do it, they feel the most. There's just this thing inside them that just really grows. And so whatever it is that you do, you can impart a sense of success in a young man or a young woman just by showing them that they can do something, that they are somebody. And that's people of all walks of life, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be inner city kids or whatever. Choose where you want to go and who you want to help, and just help them. And for me, whether that be in a program, or whether you start something, or whether it just be, you see a kid down the street that you think needs your help, just step out there and do that. When we started, it wasn't a program. It was someone asking me to help them coach. And I figured out that this was a calling for me, and I went about and just doing my own thing. And now we have a program, and I never thought that was going to be the case, but I never really intended for it to be the case. But it just started with a thought that I wanted to help somebody.
And so we've talked quite a bit on the impacts that these kids have gotten out of the program, the impacts to their education, to their careers, and what it means to work hard and to try even if you have failures. What has been the biggest lesson that you've learned in the last 25 years from your kids? Like, what have the kids taught you?
That the things that I think are important aren't really. It's funny. We can go to a game and win a Super Bowl, or we can go to a game and lose 35-0. And 10 minutes after we've lost 35-0, the kids are playing around, laughing, jumping on each other. Coach, can we go to McDonald's? It's just not all that serious. And I think as an adult, I've taken that into my own life. You know what? The things that I think are really, really serious, there's only a few of them that really are, and those center around my family. Other than that, it's just not all that serious. And I think I've learned that from the kids.
That's awesome. Great stuff. Clarence, before we go, can you share any parting words of wisdom that you have for our audience about maybe in this area of people development, relationships, inspiring kids, or whatever you feel called upon to share? And then the best way that we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Sure. I think for me, and I said this a little earlier, just go out and do it. I think everyone has a few moments of their time or money or whatever, where that they can just give of themselves to someone else. And wherever that is, in whatever form that is, I think that if more people just did that one thing, we'd just be in a much better place in this world. And even if it's a small thing, it's not the size of the sacrifice, it's the sacrifice. The fact that you're sacrificing of yourself, the amount, Jesus tells a parable of, where he gave a different number of gold coins to different people. And one guy went and buried his gold coin, and others invested that gold coin. Well, and you know what? It doesn't matter. You can get 7 gold coins, you can get 3, you can get 1. I happen to have a few gold coins, and I give a few away. But the person that has 1 gold coin, give a little bit of that away, and that will be an investment, and you'll be blessed for that. How you can get in touch with me? So the easiest way is through LinkedIn, and I do, like I said, we do a fundraiser typically once every 3 or 4 years. If you're so inclined to help out, you can contact me on LinkedIn, and I can point you to a GoFundMe page that we have. And just hopefully I've touched someone to touch someone else. And if I've been able to do that in this 30 minutes that we've chatting, then I'm happy.
Awesome. Well, I am so happy that you joined me. Clarence, thank you so much for joining me on Hello Tech Pros today. So many times we talk about everything that's in the news, everything that's trending on Twitter, and not just like the popular stuff, right? But it's work, and it's technology, and it's business, and it's Uber, and it's whatever is going on, the mergers between this company and that company, and what certain big economies are doing, the election this time of year, all the stuff that's going on. But really, when you get down to it, if you want to make an impact, if you want to change the world, then you got to change your own individual habits and your own individual impact on the people that are around you. So you want to make a difference, change what you're doing to impact somebody else. And I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your perspective with us on that today.
Thanks, man. Anytime.
You bet. Tech Pros, I got nothing else. I think I just shared it. Go out, do good things. Be a good steward of the resources and the blessings that you have. And until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/201. Do you use Slack for team communication? Join the Hello Tech Pros Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, subscribe to this channel, and check back tomorrow. This has been People Friday, but tomorrow my featured guest and I discuss entrepreneurship. On Sunday, being unplugged. Monday, motivation. Tuesday, productivity. Wednesday, leadership. Thursday, technology. And then back again on Friday to talk people and communication. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.